Good morning, everybody. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself because you might think who I am. I'm a good friend and I was a classmate of your professor, Professor Cheryl, over there in Agusan del Sur State College. So she asked me to do this video as part of your class in your master's degree program for language arts. So I said yes because, aside from being a good friend of her, I feel like I can help something in the language arts curriculum or learning that you will have in your master's. So, I'd like to introduce myself formally. My name is John Marlo Soriano. Currently, I am a virtual teacher over here in Arizona, but my class is in South Carolina, a high school in South Carolina, here in the United States of America. If you're going to ask me about my background information, I graduated at the University of Southern Mindanao with honors and I majored in English. I have my master's degree in education in the Philippines, and currently I'm taking up another master's degree here at Grand Canyon University here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's called TESOL, or Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages, or TESOL. And then, if you're gonna ask me about my work experience, so after graduation in 2007, I was hired as a teacher at University Laboratory School, the high school department of the College of Education of USM. So I worked there for, let's say, 2 years. Yeah. And then I transferred to the Department of Education in my beloved hometown in President Rojas National High School. And then I worked there for 9 years. I became the master teacher. In 2017 came, there was an opportunity for me to go here in the US as an exchange teacher. So I took it. I was hired at Douglas High School as a J1 language arts teacher in Douglas, Arizona. And then after that, I changed a career path of having an in-person class, and now I'm a virtual teacher. I am working currently with, the students in Westwood High School in South Carolina. And also I'm taking tutorials with students all over America, students coming from New York, South Carolina, basically in East Coast, sometimes in California, yeah, anything, anywhere in America. All right, with the things that I love to do, back in the Philippines and over here in America, I love campus journalism. Back in the Philippines, I've been a coach in the division, regional, and as well as national school sports conference. And also, I was able to establish we are the first implementers of special program in journalism in our province. And also here in the U.S., when I came here, I got the chance to revive the journalism, the elective class for journalism at Douglas High School. And also, I became the advisor of their school publication for their revival, the Border Bulldog. And I've been their yearbook advisor for 3 years. So I'm just so happy that I get the chance to do that. Despite the fact that I'm here, I still find that connection and build that connection to my students back in the Philippines and also my colleagues, and now with you guys. I'm really excited to share to you what I've learned so that hopefully you can get something and you can be inspired as well. And we'll do this right now. All right, first and foremost, Professor Cheryl actually told me to give my inputs or insights about Philippine education, in language education, language arts in particular, and as well as the American education. So it's like I'm going to compare and contrast based on my experience. So I'm speaking based on my experience and speaking from what I know. I'm speaking from the learnings I have. So this might not be true to all, but this is just my observation, and you can agree with me or disagree with me. Okay? All right, I'd like to start by saying that K to 12 program in the Philippines is actually patterned in the US, Canada, or Australian type of education. From kindergarten to, let's say, from grades 1 to 10. Or over here in America, the only difference is that they have middle school. So they have grade 6, 7, 8 as their middle school. But in the Philippines, we have our grade level for elementaries from grades 1 to 6. And then we have our junior high school from grade 7 to 10. And then we have our senior high school for 11 and 12. But over here in America, they're kind of the same. But it's just that they have, middle school from grade 6 to 8. And then for their high school, they have grades 9, 10, 11th, and 12th. After all, education is the best legacy of the Americans to the Philippines. So it is no doubt, it is of no wonder why, undoubtedly, that we have, patterned our education to the Americans, because his history would tell us that Americans gave us education. The soldiers, American soldiers, were our first teachers. If you try to review our history about that, so I am not wondering anymore why our education is patterned into American system of education. That's why we have the K to 12 program. In terms of the curriculum of the K to 12 right now, I'm speaking at the high school level. I'm speaking about grades junior high school and from 11 to 12. I'm just so happy because I might have an obsolete orientation already about the curriculum, because the last time I taught there was 2017. So I asked my colleagues in President Ross National High School to give me some up-to-date curriculum, and then I'm glad that they gave me. So if you try to look at the curriculum right now, browsing, so looking at it, I see that the curriculum basically, there's a difference, because when I was there, I know that freshmen, so grade 7, Philippine literature, grade 8 will be African Asian literature, for ninth grade, American literature, and then for grade 10, we have world literature. But apparently right now, if you try to look at the curriculum, the focus is mainly on Philippine literature, which I like, because we are tracing from our grassroots. So that's basic education. And I think the curriculum provides more of like Philippine literature, literary text, which is really good. Now, in terms of grammar and language arts, so technically we can see here in the curriculum for Philippine education in K to 12 that it focuses more on the grammar. I see that. And can we blame ourselves for that? No, because Filipinos, that's not our first language. English is not our first language, so we have to learn more of the basic, of the grammar, of something mechanics in writing, mechanics in speaking at the same time. But later, I'm gonna be giving my insights of what we can do. Although there's an existing curriculum, I could suggest something about it. All right, now let's proceed to grades 11 and 12. I see that it's more of like real life situations of the use of English language. So I like that. And then I can see that there's like a coverage now for world literature. So that's a good thing. Now, in my experience in the Philippines, our kids are really good. I could tell that. Like, they're very submissive, they follow rules, whatever you teach them, they participate. They have that willingness. And I think teachers should capitalize on that, because our students are so much open-minded and willing to learn. Then I feel like, since English is our target language, I think and I believe that it worked for me before, because I would require my kids to speak English in class. I mean, they might feel awkward at first, but I feel like it's a good training. Even with simple things, it doesn't have to be a perfect English, and you have to set the rules in your class by saying that, okay, we're going to speak English right now, and I hope no one will bully if somebody mispronounce, or call out somebody if it's a ungrammatical. That's fine. That's fine. That's how we learn. That's how we learn, by practicing. So grammatically, I mean, I'm not saying that you forget about it, because as a teacher, you have to facilitate that. If there's ungrammatical term, then that's the time that you're going to say like, oh, we could use this better. So consistency of the verb, we can do that. Yeah, I think that's what that works for me really well. Like, practice by speaking it, practice by writing it. Especially like, what is an hour? What is 45 minutes or 50 minutes to speak English in the class, right? And even if it's like broken English, or how you say that, that's totally fine. You tell and you assure your kids that it's okay. So this time, I'm going to be talking about the curriculum here in the US. All right? Now, I have had, like, if you try to look at it, there's New York state standards in English. There's also South Carolina. There's also Arizona, if you try to look at it. Here in America, different states have different standards. but there's what you call a common core standards, meaning it's across America because they're in different states. Different states might tweak a little bit, but there's a common core standards. And the only thing, as a teacher here for 7 years, I have realized that Americans, especially in high school, they're now more into they're focusing more on in the macro skills of English. They're focusing more on reading and writing. I would say that 40% is reading comprehensively, like reading comprehension, and then writing. Because when they do like state test, it's basically those two, reading and writing. Speaking, that's part of it, and listening, that's part of it as well. But I would say 40% in reading, 40% in writing, and I would say maybe 10% for listening and speaking, and then 10% for grammar. So they give not so much importance in grammar if you try to look at the outputs of the students. There are ungrammatical terms because they're using Chromebooks, so there's like an auto correct for the spelling. They can do that in their computers. For my 7 years of teaching here, I think what Americans are really good at, the students are really good in backing up their information, backing up their main idea. They're so good in writing. That's why if you try to look at it, students here in America are very assertive. They can speak their thoughts really well with evidences. Yeah, I think they're really good in textual evidences. That's why when you take IELTS or TOEFL, you can say that it's a standardized test in reading and writing, right? They're so good at that. I think that's the emphasis of the curriculum here in America. It's more into reading and writing, reading comprehension and writing. We now come to the suggestions, right? First of all, the things that we can learn from the Americans. One, as a teacher, you have to model it. You have to provide templates to your kids. If this is not about, learning is not about competition. Learning is not about who does it first. It's about the learning of the totality of the students. Here in America, they model. As a teacher, you have to model like simple things like instructions. You have to do it word for word, piece by piece, or let's say like the parts of an essay. In the Philippines, what do we do? What do we do? We would just say, make a 5-paragraph essay and it will be submitted at the end of the period. Oh my God. I am guilty about that because when I was in the Philippines, I would require my students to write like a full-length essay in one setting. And I feel like, oh my God, I was so brutal, which is not good. Learning, writing is a process. So what I'm trying to suggest right here is that when you teach, you have to model it. So say, for example, you will require them to write an argumentative essay or a narrative essay. Let's start with a very basic narrative essay. So like, for example, when you do the introduction, you have to tell them, hook. What do I want to see in a hook? Maybe you can say, start with a question, a quote from a famous person that you can quote. And then after that, provide a background information of what you're writing. And then after that would be the thesis statement. And when I say template, it's not just about hook, background information, thesis statement. If you can write there word for word the exact things that you want your students to achieve or to write, then write it down. It won't harm you as a teacher. I think because, I don't know, a lot of, like for us, greatness is when students will figure it out. But for me, it's a good thing that there are really advanced students who can learn about that. But what about those that are in average or those who are slow learners? We should provide accommodation to them. I think that's a word. We have to provide that accommodation to them. And writing an essay should not be only in one setting. Don't be like that. You're not a good teacher if you do that. And I was one like that when I was in the Philippines. So when you make an essay, provide like these like a window of or a span of time for a week. So let's do essay, or for your assignment, do like for your outline. Let's do the outline for Monday and Tuesday, and then we write down our rough draft. Rough draft. on Wednesday, and then on Thursday we're gonna edit the draft, and then on Friday we're gonna do the final draft, and we will provide with like citations. And that's one thing that I want you to really put into your classes. Citations. They have to provide quotes. They have to back up their information. Because right now, with the advent of technology, especially with AI, you can never go wrong. And I think for me, providing a template that you want to achieve in your writing or in your speaking or whatever, in your reading comprehension, it will lessen plagiarized work because you have already your template. So when you check it, if the student doesn't follow the template, then you can say like, okay, this is AI generated essay. Second of all, I think what works best is the drill. Every single time you have to have a drill. Say, for example, like at least pronunciation drill, like at the start of your class. Practice, speak English in class as much as possible. You have to provide that a safe environment for them that they are to be so comfortable. Because here's the thing, here's my observation. Even the most proficient person in the Philippines, or teacher, or even English teacher in the Philippines, they know the content, they know the grammar, they're perfect about the subject verb agreement, but it's more in the application. There are some, I would say, there are some that are not very confident about that. So it's about practicing what you know, practicing what's in your mind, practicing the proficiency that you have in English. Because you may know about subject verb agreement, but if you don't say it, if you don't write it, it's useless. If you try to notice, there are a lot of language arts teachers who are really good, but when you speak to them, especially if we have some visitors coming from a foreign country, they're not. And even myself, like for example, when I came here to the U.S., I was so confident, like okay, I know this one, but when I talk to them, oh my God, I could not even, I could not even formulate my thoughts very well. So it's by practice, by doing. And even right now, if you're listening to me, you might say like, "Oh, Mr. Soriano is really good right now," but it takes time to practice. It took me 5 years or 7 years to have this kind of accent. If you're listening to me right now, so it's by practice. And lastly, one thing that I want you to really develop is have more patience. We will not only glorify and romanticize students who are really good in class. That's one thing I learned, when I came here. There are a lot of students who need accommodation. They need time. You never know, they are diagnosed with ADHD, or they are slow. Maybe they have some trauma at home or some problems at home. I want you to extend that kind of patience in class, that each student is unique, that they have their own pace. If they cannot reach the standard that you're teaching at the moment, then give them time, give them some other works that they could be at their best. You don't have to give them a perfect score, but at least provide accommodations for them. Say for example, in your essay, if you think that the student is a slow learner, so instead of like 5 paragraphs, or let's say 3 paragraphs in the body paragraphs, then just make it 1 paragraph for that student who needs accommodation. All right? And I think that's it. I can talk more some other time. But at the moment, I think those are the things that I really want to highlight. And, best of luck to all of you. Keep on improving. You have a very good professor. She's really good. So, whatever she teaches you, you apply to your class. Try to innovate yourself. Try to find some other strategies that you can find online. There's a lot of things. And I wish you well. And yeah, and I think that's it. You have a great day, everybody.